Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Julian Elijah Martinez about Wu-Tang and American Saga, which is on Hulu. It's good to see you, man. Welcome back to the show.
No, really great to see you. Thanks for having me back.
It's funny because, we've done interviews before. We specifically did an Instagram live during the pandemic, and I guess we were kind of following the trends.
Right.
Because we tried to do one and it just exploded on us and we couldn't connect.
Right. It was that one time in the pandemic where literally everybody was on Instagram and doing Instagram live.
And it was a weird thing because you were trying to join, it wasn't letting you, and then I remember that you made one.
Yep.
Trying to join. It's good to see you. It's always exciting, another season of the show drops. What's the mindset like compared to like going in and like shooting the season and then it finally dropping? What's that like for you?
Oh man, it's the culmination of so much hard work.
Yeah.
It's such an exciting, especially around this time, it's such an exciting time getting like the immediate feedback from the fans and everyone saying like how much they are digging the show and being not being able to go to the grocery store without people stopping you, being like, "Yo, dude, I love the episode."
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things where your character is such an important character to kind of the story and kind of what happens. And that's a big thing as well. Have you ever thought about that as well? Your character has a lot of screen time and everything, but it's interesting too where even if it's characters that maybe don't have a lot of screen time, there's a lot of characters that are very like pivotal, important to stories.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that kind of hit hard, I find. What do you think? That's interesting too, but they might not have as much screen time sometimes, but people remember them a lot because of how important they are for the story. Yeah,
well, I think with Divine, he really resonates with folks because of his kind of the way his backstory kind of works out. You really see a person who is really fighting for, the title of it is American Saga, which is these, it's a group of young men and young women trying to achieve their American dream. And I think Divine in particular personifies that pretty distinctly. You see him at the top, you see him go to the lowest, and then you see him take a pivot and then work his butt off to achieve another sense of success.
You're all professionals and you've all done some amazing things in the past as well. I feel like there's always going to be that pressure that you're making a show about one of the greatest music groups of all time. I don't think that pressure is ever going to go away. But do you personally, for you, Julian Elijah Martinez, do you thrive off that pressure though? Like it must be a bit exciting too, right?
I think so. I mean, my dad said this. He was like, Elijah, I think you can only kind of succeed if things are kind of crazy and things are unsurmountable. Because like when things are easy or if like today, I barely had anything to do besides this and the show that I'm doing later on. So I literally just binge watch What If all day.
Pretty much.
So I accomplish nothing unless it seems like an impossibility.
It's an interesting situation too, because, the world is just for the entertainment aspect of it in terms of like booking guests as well. I had there's a lot of people that were available not working and everything.
Right.
Now there's kind of these like hubs of like a lot of people working and then the people that just worked and then they're just chilling now. Like it's very interesting navigating like the booking of guests, I find.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing too, I think we're in a golden age, we're in a golden age of TV and entertainment and IP. And so that means, unfortunately, that a lot of us are working, and especially there's a lot of diversity on the screen. There's a lot of different voices that are coming out, and so I think we're in a very interesting time, especially when it comes to the
And I think, the hustle, the grinding, I mean, it comes with the territory a little bit, but I feel like it does help the situation that there are more opportunities out there. There's a lot of opportunities to work on a short film, a web series. There's a lot of opportunities there that weren't there as well. When did you start to kind of notice that? I'm curious timeline wise for you.
Oh, when did I start to notice the opportunities?
Yeah. I mean, they're always there, but like I'm sure there's one time where you're with your family, you're like, man, like there's more reps now.
I think, I've by the grace of the universe and by the grace of God, my team has always worked really hard for me, and so I've had a lot of opportunities. I've been blessed and privileged with a lot of opportunities coming my way. But I would say that actually, I think around the time right before the pandemic hit. I think 2019 things were really starting to pop, and then now that we figured it out, we figured out how to film in this thing. Theaters back in New York City, I'm noticing that a lot more kind of opportunities are kind of springing themselves up again. So it's around 2018, 2019 I started noticing things.
Season 2 of Wu-Tang American Saga drops on Hulu, and there's that kind of excitement that, you know, you get that call that you get to come back as Divine and you get to kind of work again and be on the show. So there's that, right?
Yeah,
it's like the
they
big
didn't fire me.
Yeah. But then there's kind of this rush of kind of thoughts going on in your mind about, you know, the direction of the show and everything. I'm curious, when you got that call that you were coming back for season 2, what was that kind of adrenaline like a little bit?
Yeah, I think, well, it gave me an opportunity to really kind of like hone in on some very specifics that I've wanted with Divine. I think Marcus Callender says this about his work in Power in season 2. He was like, I was able to find the details. And I'm like, and I feel sort of the same way. You know, I was a little bit of, you were talking about pressure, a little bit of that pressure was kind of off on my case. And I was really just kind of able to figure out the details and figure out like specifics with him. So that was kind of my mindset going into season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys did a big press chunk. You did a lot of press when you were kind of like interacting with everyone and doing all those interviews and kind of the release week type thing. What's kind of going through your mind in terms of like the fact that was it hitting you guys that like it was finally coming out? Because I feel like that to me is the weirdest thing, because we're talking about now, it's out now. So like we could talk about it more. But though I feel like it's a weird situation doing interviews about something that's like not out to the public. Like I always felt that was like a hard thing because of spoilers, right?
Right. Well, no, what bugged me out was that a lot of the press had already seen most of the season, and I ain't seen nothing. So they was mention things in episode like 8, and I'm like, wait, what? That happened?
So I mean, you saw the scripts. I mean, some people like you. I mean, it's funny because Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus, we interviewed a lot of the cast for that, and like we got access to the episodes pretty early, and like a lot of the cast like didn't see it, and they were like, "What?" Like,
yeah, exactly.
You watched the first like 6 episodes, but it's exciting too. It's an interesting situation going in, because a lot of people got those screeners even before like a trailer came out and everything. It's very interesting dynamic going in super fresh. Like when you like I will say it's an experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so like as I was answering those interview questions, I'm literally just trying not to say the wrong thing, because I'm just like, I don't freaking remember. We filmed that.
But when I did interviews for Fear Street on Netflix, both me and the people that I was interviewing saw it, and that was really hard because it was 2 weeks out of it being out, and like I wanted to dive into spoilers, but it was so, and they wanted it out like a couple of days before it was out to kind of hype everyone, but it was like really difficult to do that. What are you hoping people get out of this new season, man? It's out there. It's on Hulu. I mean, the story's kind of taking a lot of turns right now in terms of what's happening with Wu-Tang and everything else. What are you hoping to get out of it, takeaway wise, man?
Man, the first thing is like I'm hoping that, I really think that this is the season the fans wanted, and so I really hope that people are getting that. They're getting that kind of, not fan service. I think that has a negative connotation, but kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's delving really deeply into the music. I think we had a lot of great feedback about episode 6, which was like all in terms of spoiler alert, was all in Riz's mind, and so like I think like it's I think I'm really hoping that the fans get what they're hoping for and what they're dreaming of with that. And then at the end of the day, you know, it's I've always thought that Wu-Tang history is American history, is New York history, is Black history, and
absolutely,
you know, and Divine and Power in particular are pretty pivotal in terms of their story. And so now finally, I think people are seeing these two men and everything that they did in terms of like building this group.
It interests me that you said that, because that's a perfect segue to my next like question, talking point. I mean, I find it really special that we're seeing kind of tale of two shows these days. I mean, in one regard, Wu-Tang is about music. In another regard, it's not just about music. It's about life. It's about growing. Like That's an interesting thing too, right? Where you're making a show that has a lot of layers, that has the music. It's about the music, but if you look at the other spectrum of things, it's not about the music at all.
Yeah. It's about a family.
Yeah,
ultimately, and also it's about a family. It's about a business. It's about like three geniuses. Like when you really think about what they were able to accomplish, and I mean, I was watching Reservation Dogs, and they're all wearing Wu-Tang t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so synonymous with the culture at this point, and that was, the singular focus of these guys. Sitting in the basement in Staten Island, and so like, I think all of that is this story and is this show.
I think a lot of people realize. I also saw like interviews about like Straight Outta Compton as well. I mean, it was a lot. Like, there's a lot of stories and everything, but there was a lot. It's so true what you just said. It was a lot of like in the studio, grinding and working.
yeah.
That's basically.
Yeah, and I love. I think it was. I think it's You God who's still like selling drugs, and he's like, well, I ain't, this music ain't making no money. I mean, there was a point in time when they were just like on a hope and a prayer, and they were just kind of showing up, and they were like, you know what, I'm gonna spend an hour and a half in the studio and bang this out, but then I gotta go. I got my side job. I got my baby. I gotta, I got this and this and this and this.
It always goes back to the pressure, though. I mean, you guys are playing people that existed, right? Like it always goes back to that. I mean, I feel like the kind of goals obviously are to make a stimulating, amazing content that people are going to enjoy. But there's also kind of that aspect that you hope you make them proud type thing. Like there's that, like that's a big part of it too, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the best compliment I'm getting is from people in my neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Is folks saying like, I love that show. I remember living in the 90s. You're like my cousin, you're like my brother, you know what I mean? You're like myself. Like those kind of like that kind of feedback that we've been getting about the show has been the best compliment. And that's kind of like back to your earlier question of like, what do I want to get out of it? I want people to see their family, and I want people to see themselves. And that's, that's ultimately, hopefully what we can do.
100%. I wanted to thank you so much for taking some time and coming back on the show, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you were literally my second interview ever, so of course I got.
That's awesome, man. It's season 2. They can check that out on Hulu.
On Hulu, drops every Wednesday. We've got 3 more episodes, and then you can just binge it.
Isn't it interesting that you're on a show that's not a bingeable yet, but there's a lot of shows like Squid Game that are bingeable? Yeah. Have you thought about that at all? That's interesting too.
No, I love the way they roll into it.
I love it too.
It makes it a destination.
It's funny. Some of my favorite shows lately are shows that like I'm watching like week after week, and like I can't wait for the next episode. Like it's funny. Like those are my favorite shows right now.
Yeah. I think the thing is The Boys tricked us. You know what I mean? Like The Boys started that, and so now everybody else is like, oh, that works.
Oh, that show! Oh, I can't wait for that show to come back. That was like amazing. People can follow you on Instagram to keep up to date with everything.
Yeah, my full name, Julian Elijah Martinez, and I'm also on Twitter. I was gonna say Tinder. I'm not on Tinder. I'm on Twitter at Julian Elijah.
Amazing. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, it's Julian Elijah Martinez from Wu-Tang and American Saga on Hulu, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.